Just wanted to kick things off a little bit. Again, my name is Brian Kenner. I'm the Deputy Mayor for Planning and Economic Development in Washington, D.C. And very rarely do I get to come to an event, and it is something that's really focused on people. And so I think that's one of the great things that we are here this morning to celebrate and to make a few additional announcements around that. As many people know, in terms of economic development, the mayor is very clear with me that I have 3 jobs to do. I need to be focused on increasing tax revenue in the District of Columbia. I need to be focused on getting D.C. residents jobs, and I need to be focused on affordable housing. That affordable housing component, in line with the Department of Housing and Community Development, is extremely important. I think everybody is pretty well aware at this point of what the median house price is in the District of Columbia, which continues to move up. I think people are pretty aware about what rental rates are in the District of Columbia, which continue to move up. And increasingly what I hear from people is that they want to be able to live and work in the District of Columbia. And to be able to do that, there has to be a spectrum of housing available for people to be able to move into. And so that is why we have been working hand in hand with the Department of Housing and Community Development. And again, I just want to recognize Polly Donaldson, the director of the agency, who has done an outstanding job with the primary tool that we have around affordable housing, which is the Housing Production Trust Fund. That is a $100 million commitment that Mayor Bowser has made around affordable housing. To this point, however, it has been very difficult to spend through that $100 million in a year. And I'm happy to report that Polly and her team, for the first time ever, have actually been able to spend $106 million of that money. And I think that deserves a round of applause, don't you? That is an amazing. But we all know that it's not just about the fund. It's not just about money that goes out through that vehicle. We need to have additional sort of arrows in our quiver. And another important arrow that we are honestly able to talk about a little bit less is affordable home ownership in the District of Columbia. I hear a lot from residents that they are concerned not only about living in the District of Columbia, but they want to own in the District of Columbia. And an important piece that that DHCD has to be able to effectuate that is through the Home Purchase Assistance Program, or HPAP, as it is called. The HPAP program provides closing cost assistance and a down payment assistance for first-time home buyers in the District of Columbia. And I remember when I was a first-time home buyer in the District of Columbia, and there is certainly a wave of anxiety and fear that came over me thinking about buying my first home, the complicated process of getting a mortgage, of getting pre-approved, of finding a place, and really moving from being a renter to an owner. And so I know what that feeling, that sort of anxiety feels like. I'm sure many people in this room also know that anxiety. However, I will say that owning a home continues to be the #1 mechanism for wealth creation in the United States. And so it is increasingly important that we provide that ability to move from being a renter to being an owner in the District of Columbia. That is why we're very happy this morning to be announcing a few changes and a few upgrades really to the HPAP program that we have. First and foremost, and I will allow the Housing and Community Development Director, Polly, to go into more detail. But first, one of the biggest things is that for fiscal year 17 budget year, the year that we're in right now, we have increased the amount of HPAP assistance by almost 60%. It has gone from $10 million to $16 million that we have available to spend. That will enable hundreds of more homeowners to be created in the District of Columbia. Number 2 is that in order to be able to spend through that money, we're actually bringing on 2 providers this year to be helpful in identifying potential borrowers so that we can actually get that money spent. In addition, knowing that the home prices in the District of Columbia continue to increase, we're going to be increasing the down payment assistance amount from $50,000 per borrower to $80,000 per borrower. So we're going to be providing more money to people to be able to purchase their homes. And I think finally, what the director will talk a little bit about is that we're also going to be, for some of the more low-income borrowers who use HPAP, we're going to be allowing them to effectively defer their interest payments for a significant amount of time. So making it easier for low-income borrowers to be able to afford the HPAP program and to be able to utilize it. all of these changes really are a result of some creative thinking by the Department of Housing and Community Development, as well as many other folks who are thinking about affordable housing in the District of Columbia. But as I said when I sort of opened up, this is all about people. This is less about program. This is more about people, which is why I am happy, and I got a chance to meet very briefly Precious, Jonathan, and Jeanette in particular, as well as Genesis, the youngest homeowner here, who are new homeowners. I think that Jonathan and Precious moved in a week ago, and I believe that Jeanette moved in a month ago, and so I'm sure that they are feeling that wave of anxiety yet excitement as it relates to being a first-time home buyer in the District of Columbia, and what we think is an excellent example of people who've taken advantage of the HPAP program to be that bridge between being a renter in the district and really being an anchor part of the community by being a homeowner in the District of Columbia. So with that, I would like to actually invite up Jonathan and Precious maybe first, just to talk a little bit about their experience with HPAP, and then Jeanette after that.
Good morning. This is my beautiful wife, Precious, and my beautiful baby girl, Genesis. We were afforded the opportunity to take advantage of the EHAP program. I'm a member of the DC Fire and EMS. I'm a firefighter and EMT, and my wife is a small business owner in Ward 8. And we were able to take advantage of it, which has been a blessing to us, that my daughter can grow up in a brand new home. And I'll let my wife defer to my wife.
Pretty much. Actually, I find it funny because I grew up in Prince George's County, and I always thought to have a nice home, I had to move back to Prince George's County. But when I married my husband, who's born and bred in D.C., he basically made that a contingency of marriage that we would live in the District of Columbia. Very smart man. So, you know, through the EHAP HPAP program, we were able to afford a home that we love in the District of Columbia. So it's indeed a blessing, and we're very, very grateful.
And I also wanted to take the time to acknowledge Ms. Tyson, who helped us through the process. She was our counselor here, and she walked us right through the paperwork, answered every call I made, maybe 10 times a day. So I really want to say thank you publicly for what you did for us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. I am Jeanette Staten. I have a son, Javon Brown, who's 14 years old, and I'm also native Washingtonian, born, raised, still reside. How about them skins? So that's right. Woo-hoo. So before I moved into my house, I was in my apartment for 10 years. My journey to homeownership was interesting. To say the least, I was afraid of homeownership. I did not want to move. However, I knew how important it was to own a home. I am clearly aware that health inequality in D.C. Is huge, and home ownership plays a significant role in that. Home ownership equals equity. Equity equals a better future for my son and I. However, a couple of months ago, there were multiple shootings behind the window of my apartment, and I knew I had to move. I knew I had to get my son out of there, and that started my journey. HPAP actually helped me obtain my home by providing me with closing costs, as well as amazing workshops that help us to not only ensure that we close, but we keep our home. And my counselor actually is here today too, Walda Yoon. Walda was very strict, and I love her. She was like, Jeanette, you have to budget. You have to budget. Stay out your mama's house. She was awesome. I love her to death. So HPAP was amazing. They even talked about the cost that you incur, which is very important because you don't realize how much money you're dishing out throughout this process. So I'm very thankful. And I as well, I'm actually neighbors with the Tates. We're all in Ashford Courts. And with that said, I would like to introduce Polly Donaldson, the Director for D.C. Department of Housing and Community Development. Polly Donaldson has served as the Director of the Washington, D.C. Department of Housing and Community Development since January 2nd, 2015. Polly.
Oh, thank you. Well, before I begin, good morning, everybody. Before I begin, we have some special gifts for our two new homeowners, and they are very recent homeowners. And so I want to, if you would, step up and...
Just asking.
We're going to get a picture.
a little heavy.
Can
Be
we get
careful.
a picture too with the deputy mayor? Maybe step over here. Yeah, there we go. Okay. A little heavy, but welcome home.
Thank you.
Great. Okay. Enjoy. Enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, good morning again. I just want to first off say thank you very much, Deputy Mayor Kenner, for being here and for such strong support of all that this wonderful agency is doing, particularly in the area of homeownership and in helping to increase the number of homeowners. I want to acknowledge that Ward 8 Council Member LaRuby May is here. Thank you very much, a very strong advocate for homeownership and for Ward 8, and I very much enjoy working with you and look forward to that in the future also. Thank you. I also want to acknowledge that the Executive Director of the D.C. Housing Finance Agency, Todd Lee, is here, and I believe we're going to be joined by the Greater Washington Urban League. Oh, he's right here. I'm sorry. Right in front of me. No wonder. George Lampert, the President and CEO of the Greater Washington Urban League. Welcome. Thank you. I also know that there are representatives here from the 10 community-based organizations that we work with, and we will acknowledge them in just a moment. But they are also key to this process, because what we heard first about was the end of the process, when the homeowner becomes a successful homeowner. But there's a lot of work that goes on prior to that, and so we want to make sure that we acknowledge that as well, and particularly for the benefit of our HPAP recipients, Jeanette Staten and Jonathan and Precious Tate, and of course Genesis as well. Let me just say, first of all, that I think all of you are aware that the mandate that we have here at DHCD, based on the priorities that the mayor has made, Deputy Mayor Kenner spoke about the Housing Production Trust Fund, and yes, preserving and producing affordable housing for our city is absolutely critical. The mayor's commitment of $100 million annually to support the Housing Production Trust Fund is unprecedented, not just in the district, but across the country in terms of cities and the per capita expenditure on affordable housing. We now have 5,300 units of affordable housing in the pipeline and under construction. We did a record amount, and I don't mind repeating what the deputy mayor said, because the staff here at DHCD did a phenomenal job of ensuring that $106 million from the trust fund went out the door to support projects. Let's applaud that again. We have a great team here at DHCD. Many are here, and it's across the board, I think, an agency that has become one of the most productive and efficient agencies, and with more to do, will be doing more so in the future. I have 5 priorities that I talk about here with the agency. Obviously, housing production and preservation is one, but home ownership and expanding home ownership across the city is very much a key priority as well, as is ending homelessness, finding solutions to vacant and blighted properties, and revitalizing neighborhoods through community development as well. But affordable housing is not just about producing and preserving buildings. It's really about the residents who live in those buildings. So we're talking about the people that over the long history of HPAP and other related programs have helped thousands of district residents, like the Tates, like Jeanette Staten, become homeowners. And these stories there are many stories out there, but they warm my heart and really make it one of the reasons why I love coming here to work at DHCD. I will tell you that. But we know that our homeowner programs have not necessarily kept pace with our changing city, and so we want to recognize that Mayor Bowser and the council took significant steps this past year to greatly increase the amount of funding available to $16 million for the housing HPAP program. That financial assistance will be key to growing the number of homeowners as well. But we also knew inside of DHCD that we had to take a look at HPAP and make it ready to work with the additional funding. And one of the principal ways we did this was by hiring a seasoned professional, Frank Demaray, as the HPAP program manager. Many of you know Frank as well. He's been there in the affordable housing and finance sectors. He knows and understands what it takes to make homeowners successful homeowners, because you can have someone get a mortgage and be part of a home, but to have them sustain that and maintain that is really an important, just as important part in that way. So we're delighted to have Frank on board and steering HPAP through this next phase of its program as well. Now, I mentioned that we have representatives from 10 of our community-based organizations that the agency supports with grants to help provide the housing counseling that helps prepare the way for future homeowners and home buyers in the district. What is housing counseling? It's everything from credit and financial counseling, how to shop for financing and a lender, how to present yourself to a lender, and for existing homeowners, how to prevent foreclosure, how do you stay a successful homeowner. And the organizations who've been they are the ones that are key to making the home buyers programs a success, and they include AARP Legal Counsel for the Elderly, the Central American Resource Center, CARICEN, Housing Counseling Services, Latino Economic Development Center, Lydia's House, Inc., MANA, Inc., Marshall Heights Community Development Organization, MICASA, University Legal Services, and the Greater Washington Urban League. Each of these organizations gets a grant from our federal funding source, the Community Development Block Grants, and they are in the front lines across all 8 wards of providing homeowner experience and homeowner assistance to first-time home buyers, such as our wonderful recipients here in the front row. Now I want to talk about the administrators of the program, and to announce today that, as you know, since inception of the HPAP program, the Greater Washington Urban League has served as the administrator of the program. The administrator is a critical partner with DHCD, and as a team, we work to help homebuyers become homeowners. HPAP administrators determine applicant eligibility, process the loans, prepare the mortgage closings, fund closing cost assistance, and provide other assistance. That's a lot of work, and we are glad that we can continue to rely upon the Greater Washington Urban League. And again, I'd like to acknowledge and ask him to stand up, Greater Washington Urban League President George Lampert. But even more work will be involved as we build upon the strong legacy of HPAP through the new enhancements, including the increased loan size up to $80,000, and the repayment process will be changed to enable over 70% of the recipients to have their loans deferred until the sale of the properties at some future date. So that really does help HPAP be that support for making you a successful home owner in that way. We knew that we had to look at how our process was to ensure that these enhancements were to work seamlessly. And so the best way to do that was to increase the number of administrators. And so I'm very pleased to announce that the DC Housing Finance Agency is our new second administrator of the program, connecting the work it does already in homebuyer programs such as the DC Open Doors. May I acknowledge Todd Lee again, the executive director. Having the combined resources of these two committed partners will best support the enhanced program and leverage complementary resources as they have provided for many years. So we look forward to working with both organizations and with the network of community-based organizations as well. In addition, I want to give you a little preview of a new program that we will be implementing in 2017. And want to give you some information on what we're calling Live in DC, that will dispose of single-family properties in DHCD's inventories for $250 to create new affordable homeownership opportunities for teachers, firefighters, police, and other public service in the district. I think that's significant, $250 for the property, to enable those properties to become new homes for our public servants here in the district. The Live in DC program will enhance our ability to dispose of the property that the district owns, of vacant and blighted properties, and will help make vacant properties vibrant again. In the last 2 years, DHCD has enhanced the solicitations process to dispose of vacant and blighted properties within its inventory, and DHCD will continue to find new ways to create new home ownership opportunities for D.C. public servants. So I'm delighted to announce that and look forward to more information coming early in the new year on that. And in closing, before I close, actually, I would like to ask, Councilmember May, this is one of those surprise parts of the program. Would you like to come up and make some comments, Councilmember? Councilmember May.
Well, good morning. A surprise to both of us, Polly. I was just coming to support. So, good morning. I always, when I get the opportunity to speak on behalf of the great, wonderful, outstanding, phenomenal residents of Ward 8, I always start by thanking the Creator. Very blessed, very grateful to represent Ward 8, and very grateful to be here. Congratulations to the new homeowners. What we know in Ward 8 is that the disparity between renters and homeowners is too great. And so I was proud to vote on the extending the amount of the HPAP down at the council. We're very, very happy to support the additional funding. Really happy to support Director Donaldson and her team and the mayor in making a commitment to make sure that individuals, I think Ms. Jeanette said you were born and raised in D.C., right? And so one of the things that we see is individuals who are born and raised here being pushed out to what I call Ward 9. And so what we want to do is we want to make sure that people who are born and raised here get an opportunity to let their children say the same thing, that they were born and raised here and they've built equity and they're able to contribute into our community. And so I'm very grateful. I'm very thankful for the work that's happening at DHCD. I also see Mr. Forrest Hayes here over in the Deputy Mayor for Greater Economic Opportunity Office, which they're also working to make sure that we're doing all that we can for economic development and housing that Ward 8 residents can afford. So I look forward to this live-in program, for the 200 live-in DC program, to make sure that when our teachers live in the communities where they serve, they tend to serve our children better. When police officers live in the community that they serve, they tend to be more respectful and to be more culturally sensitive. And so I look forward to supporting that program. And again, thank you all very much. Good morning.
Thank you, Council Member. We look forward to your voice in the future on this for Ward 8, as we know. Today here and in closing, I just want to say you're surrounded by a lot of hard workers here at DHCD. We're all with the goal, and with our community partners as well, and all with the goal to fulfill the mayor's mission to produce and preserve affordable housing in all 8 wards. We are here, and I use this motto since the very beginning, actually. We are all doing more with more, and we know the responsibility that comes with that as to the residents of the district. So we are doing more with more to make more affordable housing happen. And I thank you all for coming here today. Thank you.